Ragin Cajuns softball getting ready to host another Sun Belt Conference tournament. Head coach Gerry Glasco hops on Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. I am your host, Dave Schultz. Today's episode of Locked On Sun Belt brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right, great episode for you today. Thanks again for tuning in. Head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Gerry Glasco, hops on and we talk a lot about expectations, how they came about getting Justin Robichaux, the former UL baseball player and the son of the late head coach Tourney Robichaux of the baseball team, how he became pitching coach for the Cajuns, what he thinks of the single or double elimination change in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. It had always kind of been double elimination, but this year, one loss and you are done. Who he, I don't want to say fears, but who he's got more concerned with than others. And you wait till the end. Got an interesting question, got an interesting answer when I did ask him about when he thinks it became his program. Both him and him and Matt Daggs both took over the baseball and him the softball team under less than ideal circumstances. And when did he think it became Gerry Glasco's program versus Mike Loteef's program? Interesting answer that I, frankly, was not expecting. So let's get to it. He is the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns softball team, Gerry Glasco. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. So thrilled and honored to have our next guest. He is the head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Gerry Glasco. Ragin Cajuns win another regular season title, their 19th overall, 4th in a row, all under Glasco. And they won their 81st straight Sun Belt Conference Series, sweeping ULM with a sweet senior day yesterday with Kendra Lamb pitching very well and Carly Heath hitting a grand slam. Let's talk about Sundays before we get any really deep into this, Coach. What was Sunday like? A lot of emotion, the weather hold everything up. What was Sunday like for you and the girls?
I thought it was really a good senior weekend as a whole. Just the whole weekend was great. Fans showed up in big numbers and really had a good environment. And then the senior girls showed out. I thought Megan Shorman pitched outstanding on Friday night. Carly Heath pitched outstanding on Thursday night. And Carly pitched great on Friday night in game 2 and hit the ball well. And then Saturday, game 3, Cantor was she got off to all 3. I thought the first inning was hard for him. There's a lot of emotion involved. And I think you saw some emotion get involved early in the pitching and performances. And then they all settled down and looked great at the end of their performances. And then Carly Heath get that grand slam. And, we got to have some fun with the big lead. We got Megan Shorman playing right field and Carly Heath playing shortstop. Luckily, they didn't have to make any plays, but we had fun with it. And I thought it was a great atmosphere.
I'm with you. Yesterday or Saturday after the game, you're all concerned what could possibly go wrong. I'm with you. I'm thinking what possibly could go wrong instead of the chances that actually something's hit to them. Good for you for letting them do those things.
Yeah, I think any sane, normal human being would be worried at that moment, and I really didn't want to do it. I really didn't. But I think it's also important at certain times coaches and coaching staff show the human side and let the kids know we do care about them and we do want their experience to be really, really good, even at the risk of postseason. I could just see, I was just so worried about either a pop fly going up and we having a 3-way collision with Megan Shorman and Maya Davis, or Alexa Langeliers and Maya Davis and Carly Heath, or a ground ball taking just a bad hop and getting a concussion with Carly Heath at shortstop. Just something silly going on because the impact that would have on your program and your fans. And I dreaded going in Dr. Maggard's office and having discussed on Monday morning. But at the end of the day, when we got through it, fine. I told Sam Landry that we need a strikeout right here. We just one out. Let's just get a strikeout. That'll end all. And she got it. And so at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. And one of those moments when the kids hopefully will remember that later on.
Yeah, you certainly understand the emotion what Megan and Carly may have been going through on Thursday and Friday, starting in the circle. Last regular season start. That's one thing, but Kendra Lamb as a whole, it really is different, right? She never turned into that, extra starter, but you found an incredible role for her. Her parents, not like Megan's coming in from St. Louis. They're coming in from the other side of the world, Australia. She's getting the start. It's not like I may or may not get into the game. She's sleeping all night on that, probably all week, because you told her she was going to start on Saturday. How did you make sure, to let her go a little bit, because she was in trouble in the first and second innings, and then she settled in?
Yeah, Kendra could start for us. There's no doubt about it. Like we easily could have started her all year. Since she started as a sophomore, started last year junior. And there's been times throughout the last month and a half, I really thought she's pitching at the peak level, like pitching as well as anybody in the country almost. And she was willing to do that role of giving us a bullpen closer, something we wanted to try and something we believe will work because it works in baseball. And she was willing and wanted that role. And Kendra's a selfless teammate. She wants to do anything for her program. So it made her the perfect candidate. Plus her pitches, she throws hard and she goes at you. She goes at the strike zone. She doesn't dilly-dally around. She's going to go strike one, strike two, strike three. So that fits the closer role as well. So it wasn't anything to do with ability. It just to do with roles and trying to establish a bullpen that really worked together. And she's such a good leader and so much leadership in our clubhouse, and just another way for her to help our program. But it was really neat with her family coming. I mean, the added pressure you talk about of senior weekend. Right. Not only you got senior weekend, but you got her parents seeing her pitch for the first time live in the whole season. That was really, really, really neat. And then I wasn't worried. I knew that she would come around. It looked like I thought ULM made some good adjustments. They were ready for the rise ball. And I really, before the game, thought, Kendra might have 10, 11 strikeouts the way the Spring Plains had been in game 1 and 2. And they'd made an adjustment. And we ended up the game, I think, with 2 strikes. Right. And I think they had 4 hits right off early and then only ended up with 5 at the end of the game. So I knew she was going to be fine. I knew she was going to make adjustments. I don't like getting behind because, you're having flashbacks to that 2-1 loss to Louisiana Monroe 2 years ago on senior day. So I didn't want to get into that territory. And luckily, a freshman, Cecilia Valdez, hit a home run and got us going. And that from that point on, it was all Cajuns.
All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, we will talk about the expectations for the 2023 Ragin Cajun softball team. They don't really have a big-time superstar. They may be one of the more balanced Ragin Cajun softball teams in a long, long time. But first, let me tell you a little bit about FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. I actually made my first bet on FanDuel as we return. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day, did not win the Kentucky Derby. Nope, did not do it. We'll try again with the NBA playoffs and maybe dip my toe in a little baseball. All right, let's get back to our episode with head coach Gerry Glasco of the UL Ragin Cajuns. What were his expectations heading in to the 2023 season? We're talking to Gerry Glasco, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day, head coach of the Ragin Cajun softball team. All right, so let's back it up to the beginning of the season. And suffice it to say that I didn't come until, the beginning of April. So I'm not sure where this team was in terms of what the expectations were, but just what I've seen, there's not that. They seem to be very balanced. There's not the one girl. There's no Lexi Elkins per se. There's no Haley Hayden. There's no Raina O'Neill. But there seems to be, the lineup is really solid 1 through 9, and you actually have some girls who can come off the bench. What is the difference between this team and some of the others that you've had, and what were the expectations coming in?
Yeah, every team's a little different, and this year's team, even though we had a lot of players from last year back, it took on its own personality. And I think the one thing you could say about this team at the end of the year, like I think we've had eight or nine games in the 22 wins in the Sun Belt. Either 8 or 9 of them we've come from behind. So they're definitely fighters. They won't give up. They're gonna scratch and claw and try to get back on top if they get underneath. And they're fighters. And so I love this team for that respect. The other thing that I think the characteristic of this team that I really like is they can beat you in a lot of ways. They can beat you with their defense. Maya Davis has kind of highlighted the defense with her play in the outfield. Alexa Langler's with her play in the infield, just really, really special. And then our catching. This is the best catching we've had. Sophie has made great strides throwing out runners. They don't run on her. She's thrown out like 30% of the runners this year. And then your freshman Vic Valdez is throwing out, I think, around 35% of the runners. So we've went from 54 stolen bases allowed last year to down to in the low 20s. If they've even got to 20, it may be right at 20 this year. But just huge improvement there and stopping the running game of our opponents. So we can do things defensively. We can do things offensively. We can do it with a long ball. We've had several games where we hit 2 or 3 home runs, and that's been the focal point. But then there's other games we don't hit any home runs, and we can steal 6, 7 bases if we need to and beat you with our speed. And so I like that part. I like the versatility of this team.
So how long did it take for you to realize that it's not the same team where, in the past, Cajuns, like with the home runs, have jumped out to early leads? How long did it take for you to adjust to realize, maybe I can relax a little bit if we're down by a couple runs because they're coming back?
Yeah, it's just not in my DNA to relax.
I knew that was going to be the answer.
It was 1-0, and I keep telling myself, like, Jerry, don't get mad, don't get tight, don't get upset. Don't let it get frustrated. They're going to come back. Have faith in your ball club. But at the same time, my brain is senior day. If we let this thing get to the 4th, 5th inning, we're going to have some added pressure. This is not the way you play this game. This isn't the way we want this game the script to be written. But you just got to learn to trust them. And when Sissy Vasquez come up, I thought, man, this is exactly when I watched her in travel ball for 4 years. This is exactly when she would get the big hit in travel ball, because she does things when you least expect it. And I thought, it's just travel ball. She'd hit a double or a home run right here. And she did. So I thought that was a really good sign for us. And I think really important for her to know that she can do that for our ball club, because that's who she is. And that's kind of how the team is. They do whatever it takes to get it done, and different people every day. And that's what we've done for the last, I think we're 21-4 down the stretch. And it's kind of been that way how we did it.
We're talking to Gerry Glasco, head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. They're hosting the Sunbelt Conference tournament this year. They are the number 1 seed, obviously, winning the regular season. They will play Thursday night. Is it Georgia State and ULM, the winner of that? Did I get that right? So different scenario. I'm wondering why it changed, from double elimination to single elimination. I've never seen that before in the postseason. Your thoughts on the change?
I lost you there for just a second. Are you talking about the 1 and 2 seed where the other division gets the 2 seed?
No. Single elimination to double elimination, or the other way around. It's double elimination.
Yeah.
The single.
I'm thrilled.
Okay.
Yeah, I cut out. We lost you on the internet just for a second. But yeah, I'm thrilled with what we did. I think it's less gimmicky. I don't like gimmicks. We've got a really good conference. The Sun Belt's really strong. It's a number 6 rated conference in the country. And if you only took the top 5 teams, I think we'd be one of the top 4 conferences in the country. We're really strong at the top of our conference. And so I love that. Single elimination, 8 games. Let's go. Let's shoot it out. And let's don't play extra games where we might lose a player to an injury. The more innings we play next week, the more chance we have of injury. And the more chance we have of injury, the less chance we have to do our very best in postseason. I like the idea of us playing each other. I like the idea of getting to see, in a single elimination, we're going to see Lockheed. In a single elimination, we're going to see Mullins. In a single elimination, we're going to see the ace. And you go back and you look at the postseason double elimination in South Alabama and at Troy, we didn't see the ace pitchers. And so then you go to the regional the next week and you're coming off seeing number 2s and number 3s. This will eliminate that. Single elimination straight up. We're going to see the best pitchers that they've got, and we're going to throw the best pitchers we got at them. And that's going to help the Sun Belt Conference teams in the regional.
So that would be the next question, which I wasn't planning on asking, but so is Megan Shorman going Thursday night? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I really don't. Honestly, I don't know. When I talk to Coach Justin, it's more about, I think he has total faith in all 3 of those pitchers, actually 4 with Heath. But, Shorman and Landry, they're both so good and they're both so equal. It's more about, do they hit the changeup well or do they hit the curveball? What do we think we're going to have the best success for? Landry's going drop, rise, change, and Shorman's going curve, screw, rise. And has developed a changeup this year, but it's more about pitching styles. Now, they both are outstanding fielders, so we don't have to worry about it. It's not like if they bunt. Sometimes with Lamb, you start thinking, how good of a bunting team are they? Are they going to bunt a lot, put a lot of short play in? And then that would tend to go away from Candor, where if they're a home run hitting team, Lamb's only allowed 1 home run the whole year. So teams that hit a lot of home runs, like, hey, let's throw Lamb at them. So each pitcher's got unique strengths and characteristics, and it's more matchup for us than it is. It's not one pitcher totally better than the other. They're all outstanding.
All right, let's take one more time out. We'll get back to head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Gerry Glasco. It is an extended segment. He gives a long answer on how Justin Robichaux, the former UL baseball player, became the pitching coach for the UL softball team. But first, want to thank you so much for staying with us. We were inconsistent in April as I made the move from Mobile back to Lafayette, but we're getting much more consistent, and we should have a big week with the Sun Belt Conference tournament heading here to Lafayette again. If you are coming in, first of all, the Cajuns will feed you. Cajuns fans will be very hospitable, so enjoy that and enjoy all the food that you'll be able to have and maybe try for the first time. But thank you so much for, subscribing on YouTube. Again, we are, if you're driving and you want to listen to the podcast, you're certainly able to do that, before you take off in your car. You can download the podcast audio-wise. We're all over the place. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart. Just search for Locked On Sunbelt, and you'll be able to get the episodes when they come out if you subscribe. Also, if you're in Apple, you want to rate and review, that's a big help as well. We are continuing to grow, and it is fun to watch the channel, especially on YouTube, grow organically, right? We're not a Power 5 conference. We do like our softball and our baseball and some basketball. It's not only driven by football, so we do appreciate it. And, hopefully I don't know if 1,000 subscribers is too much to ask for come football season, but that is certainly the goal. It's going to be a little bit difficult when we're, out of out of season, although maybe Coastal or somebody else can make a nice run and get to the College World Series. That would be a big help. All right, let's go back to Gerry Glasco. We talk a lot about a lot of different things, so hang with the episode. We do talk about how Justin Robichaux, the son of the late head coach of the baseball team, Tourney Robichaux, became the Ragin Cajuns pitching coach. We talk about the single elimination and the double elimination. Now it's only single elimination, lose and go home, who he may or may not be concerned about heading into the conference tournament. And again, an interesting answer. A lot of times the questions I ask, I got a pretty good idea what the answer is going to be. This one I did not. When did Gerry Glasco feel that it became his program? Both him and Matt Diggs, the head coach of the baseball team, Diggs taking over for Robe, took over in less than ideal situations. So when did Gerry finally feel that it is his program? You may be surprised at the answer. All right, let's get back to it. He is the head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Gerry Glasco, on Locked On Sunbelt. Talking to Gerry Glasco, head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Locked On Sunbelt. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Let's talk about your pitching coach, Robichaux. How did that come about? Justin played for his dad, played some baseball, and now he's doing softball. I know you know this, Tim Walton for Florida. He played pro ball. I love it that, he actually played with Ricky Williams in the minor leagues, and now he's one of the best softball coaches in the nation. How did Justin, end up joining your staff of having, playing the other sport, the overhand sport instead of the underhand sport?
Well, it kind of slipped my mind when I was looking for the pitching coach. I really didn't think about Justin the first go around, and I actually had hired Chelsea Wilkinson, who's the pitching coach at University of Georgia and who I'd recruited out of high school to play at University of Georgia. And so that was my first instinct, was to go get Chelsea to come in, who, I was with her freshman, sophomore years at Georgia. I recruited her as a senior in high school. She knew me. She knew my family. And, just she is family with us. And so I went and got her. And her husband had been a first-round draft choice out of University of Georgia baseball pitcher and had not finished his degree because he was drafted after his junior year. And so when they come over on an interview, or not an interview, but they came over to visit campus and pick out an apartment and look around, one of the things I did, I wanted to help her and her husband get his feet on the ground here on the baseball side, and where he could, pick up some employment, and then also talk about going back to school and getting his degree here at Louisiana. So I asked Justin Robichaux to come and have breakfast with him, and we went to, I think, Another Broken Egg. And so we're doing this interview, or not interview, but get together, where Justin's, inspiring this young man about how important this degree is. They got to finish that degree, and how he introduced him to the baseball community, and him and Chelsea got talking about pitching and pitch calling. It was a really good breakfast conversation, about an hour and a half. And I walked out of there and I thought, man, I may have hired the wrong person. I should have thought about hiring Justin, hometown guy. And of course, I love Coach Tourney. And in that, we have a common denominator. I lost Gerry in January, and Justin lost Tourney in June or July that summer. And in that 6-month period, Coach Robichaux, every week after the press conference, would always bring me in his office quite often. And, he'd always ask, how are you? How's your wife? Really concerned about my wife. And that really impressed me, that his concern about how my wife was doing and how I was doing, but more and more how my wife was doing. And I was really impressed by that. And so then, we went on. We get right after school's out, we lose Coach Robichaux. And so during this breakfast thing, I walk out and I'm like, wow, I should have thought of that. That was a chance to get a Robichaux involved in athletics at Louisiana and softball program. And so as things happen in softball, Coach Lou, my boss and mentor at Georgia, my first job was University of Georgia under Coach Lou Harris-Champer, and she retired. And then Tony Baldwin, who was the volunteer assistant for me as a hitting coach. When I was hitting coach at Georgia, Tony was the volunteer assistant there, and we got to be really close friends. And so he got the University of Georgia head coaching job, and he was looking for a pitching coach. And I think he probably offered a job to 3, 4, 5 people. I'm involved with helping him find a pitching coach. It finally comes down to like, hey, Chelsea bleeds red and black. Do I bring her in, or she need a year or two? When we first started the process, Tony and I are talking like, hey, leave her with me for 2 years, and I'll mentor her. She'll be ready to go to the SEC in 2 years. Here, we're going to win. We've got great pitching staff. We've got tremendous pitchers. Because we knew we had Lamb, and we knew we had Shorman, and we had Sam Landry and Carly Heath. We had all those kids. We knew we were going to be really special. And it'll be a great starting place for Chelsea. But then when it just kept working out, and finally, like Tony, Chelsea bleeds red and black. She's a winner. She's going to be great. Call her. So he did. He called me and he said, hey, I'm going to offer the job this morning at 11 o'clock. I want to check with you one final time. There's no hard feelings. I said, no hard feelings at all. And I knew right then, I thought, my first call is going to be to Justin Robichaux, because I felt like, this was just meant to be. And so that's the true story. That's how it happened. And as soon as I got a phone with Tony, of course, he called Chelsea. It wasn't 30 minutes. Chelsea called me and said, look, I'm sorry, but it's 4 hours from home. And her husband could get that Georgia degree. It was just meant to be. Anyway, 4 hours from her parents, 4 hours from his parents. course, she's done well. They're second in the SEC this year. She's been an outstanding hire over there. Coach Tourney's been an outstanding hire. They're just killing it at University of Georgia at softball. And so I got on the phone with Justin, and I was like, hey, you ever thought about coaching pitchers in softball? He goes, I don't know anything about softball, really.
Right.
I said, well, matter. You know how to get batters out. It's a round ball and it's a bat. And, I've been around your family and your dad enough. And I'd had several conversations with Justin over those years. In fact, he was a volunteer assistant. I think it was his role in baseball. One of my first years here, maybe 2018, 2019. And during that time, I'd had conversation with Justin and felt really comfortable. And I always thought he kind of had that same knack of, cliches, and his verbiage is very much like his father's. And of course, if you're a great teacher and you've been around a great teacher, you're going to be a great teacher almost always. And so it didn't take much convincing. And then it was just a matter of him, family prayer, make sure it's the right move for him, make sure he wanted to commit to that much time away from his beautiful wife and his kids. And one of the things that we had to do, my wife and I took him out to dinner with his wife, and it was all about convincing his wife to give him that shot. And luckily we made that deal, and he's really, I'm just so proud of him. They had 500 strikeouts his first year, and then this year we're now with 400 again. We're going to be really close to 500, and we've played a great schedule. But the biggest thing is our pitchers are developing. Our pitchers are getting better, and that was showed by the depth of our pitching staff. And then we got pitchers lined up for next year. I really feel good about Chloe Villaseto and Tyler Oob. They're both looking really, really good in the background. And of course, Sam Landry, I feel like he just made huge strides from her freshman year to sophomore year, and I look for her to be really, really good next year.
All right, a couple more questions for Gerry Glasco, head coach of the Ragin Cajuns softball team, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's preview the Sunbelt tournament here in Lafayette because it is single elimination, and you're the number 1 seed. And forget about the divisions, the way they break up, but Marshall's number 2 and South Alabama's number 3. You only have to play one of those two teams. You won't have to face both of them if they both win, right? Because they'll end up facing each other, and you only have to play one of them. You have a ridiculous winning streak against South Alabama, but you have not played Marshall this year. They'll probably have the player of the year in Autumn Owen. She's going to win, or she won the Triple Crown. How do you go up against a team in the Sun Belt? One thing is regionals, but how do you do that in the Sun Belt? You haven't seen them at all this year. How do you think that would? How do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I think that Texas State and Troy are both better teams than Marshall. That's my opinion. I mean, I'm going to say that right now, and then we get to the championship game. If we do face Marshall, that'll be good headlines for you guys. But I don't want to throw shade on them, because I think Troy and Texas State are 2 really good ball clubs. I thought the 4 best teams in the Sun Belt in the preseason was in our division with South Alabama and Texas State and Troy. And Marshall's had a good year. Disappointed their schedule was 278th or something like that in the country. And so that didn't allow them to show maybe what they really are. But then, they got to play Texas State, who was 3rd or 4th in our side. And they took that series, I think, at Marshall, 2 out of 3. So I'm really worried about, having to beat Texas State a 4th time. I'm really worried about having to beat Troy a 3rd time. I'm worried about having to beat South Alabama a 4th time if we play them. And then along the way, the unknown of a Marshall, that could come into play. But I'm not any more worried about Marshall than I am those other 3 schools. I think we just got to be worried about playing our best ball down the stretch here. It's postseason. We need to really play good ball, and then we need to control the things that we can control on our side. And if we play our best ball, I don't think there's any team in the Sun Belt can beat us if we play our best ball.
All right, let's wrap it up. So I asked this to Coach Matt Diggs with the baseball team. You and Matt both took over programs under less than ideal situations. Matt had to replace his friend and mentor, Tourney Robichaux, after his untimely death. And, there was issues with the softball program. When do you think the Ragin Cajun softball program became your program? When did you start to feel comfortable, because it was your first time as a head coach? When did you feel like it became your program?
I think there's never a good time to not be the coach at Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. It's a very lucky day when you're the head coach here at our program, and no matter what the situation, it's just a great place to coach. But I feel like that it's still an ongoing process. Like I still don't feel like it's my team or my program. I think each day it's a little closer because now we do have all the players in the program I recruited and signed, and it's coming closer to that. But like I still, so I guess it's like when you change or you move towns and you get into a community, you may live for 20 years and you still feel like you're kind of a newcomer in that community. I don't feel like it's my team or my program. I feel like it's a great team and a great program that was built by great coaches before me and then great administrators and then a great community. The community here is just, the fans are so passionate, and their passion for softball and college softball and the Ragin Cajuns is just, I don't even know any other place that compares to it. And I feel like I'm kind of in charge of it right now. It's my job to take care of it right now, but I still don't feel like it's mine per se, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Interesting answer. That's not usually I know the answers when I ask the question, but that's not one I was expecting. He is Gerry Glasco.
I feel like a stranger sometimes.
By the way, no pressure, right? There have been 21 Sun Belt Conference tournaments, none in 20 due to COVID. The Ragin Cajuns have won 17 of them. South Alabama has won 3, and Texas State has won 1. And now you got to compete with the golf guys. Theo Slyman finally wins a Sun Belt. This could be the 3rd Sun Belt championship to go with basketball and golf, Coach. No pressure, though. No pressure.
Wow. I love the Sun Belt tournament. We won every one since I've been here in my mind, because the first year we lost and we won, and then we lost that if game. That's not the whatever they call that, the gimmick game. We beat Texas State, I think 1-0. We turned around and lost 2-1, and we don't play a 2 out of 3. And then we win the next 3. So in my mind, we've won every one since we've been here, and we should win this year if we take our business. But we got to take care of business.
That is 2018 is the one time the Ragin Cajuns did not win the tournament when they hosted. And actually, it's only one of 4 times they didn't win the whole thing overall. Coach Gerry Glasco, Louisiana Ragin Cajun softball team, really appreciate your time. We will see you out at Lamson Park this week. Thanks very much for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.